What's up, Raider Nation? Welcome to the TRU Raider Podcast, and we got some breaking news. The Las Vegas Raiders are officially going to be sitting Maxx Crosby for the final two games of the season. And I'm going to tell you why that's important, right? Because not only do we have the Maxx Crosby news, but we also have the news on Brock Bowers, the news on Jeremy Chin. We have the game coming up this Sunday, Raiders versus Giants, and it is officially really looking like we are going to tank. And I'm going to go ahead and break that all down for you. What's good? Salute. Welcome to the building. So we just got this breaking news. It just jumped out, man. And I said, man, I better jump on and go live. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up some things really, really quick. So the first thing I saw was this tweet from Ian Rappaport. And it says, sources, Raiders star Maxx Crosby was informed that he'll be out Sunday versus the Giants because of the knee injury he's been battling since October. Las Vegas made the decision with Crosby's best interest in mind, though the Pro Bowler has been fighting to play and wants to play. So, I mean, of course, Maxx Crosby, he always wants to be out there. He never wants to see the bench. He never wants to stop playing. What's good, Dom? What's good, Lewis? Salute. We got JoJo Daddy with the Raiders. So, I mean, they are actually finally starting to get on the same page with the fan base. And I love it, guys. I got to tell you, I love this. I'm here for this. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this other article that I saw because things are going to get kind of interesting with this, right? Things are going to kind of get interesting with this. It says Maxx Crosby vehemently disagreed with Raiders' decision. It says what's already been a disastrous season for the Las Vegas Raiders may be getting worse as there seems to be a growing rift between the team and star defensive end Maxx Crosby. Jay Glazer of Fox Sports reported on Friday that the Raiders and Crosby are in disagreement about whether he could play in the season's final two games. Raiders told Maxx Crosby they want to shut him down the last two games, Glazer reported on X, formerly Twitter. Crosby, who has played with injuries for much of the year, vehemently disagreed and has left the building, NFL on Fox has learned. This could lead to questions on his future in Vegas. It's easy enough to see where the Raiders are coming from at 2-13. They've long been eliminated from this postseason race. Both of their remaining opponents in New York Giants and Kansas City Chiefs are also out of contention. So the only thing really on the line in those games is draft position. That's especially true for the Week 17 matchup against the Giants, which could easily decide the number one overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. So it's easy to see why they would want to be cautious with Crosby, especially if he's dealing with injuries. That said, it's also easy to understand Crosby's position. It's also notable that per Spotrac, Crosby has $46,000 per game active bonus, so sitting him could potentially deprive him of $92,000. That could potentially create a fight between the NFLPA and the Raiders. If nothing else, if there's growing tension between Crosby and the team, it certainly opens the door for one of the NFL's best pass rushers to be available on the trade market in the offseason. Now, I got to tell you guys, I really don't believe that there's going to be so much tension between Maxx Crosby and the Raiders that this is going to go to a trade, right? There was a scrums, right? Maxx Crosby was being interviewed the other day. And they asked him, what he felt about the number one overall pick being on the line. And he was just like, you know what? Like, I don't play for draft position. I don't play for a pick. He said, I play to be the best defensive edge out there in the game, and that's it. And he said, as far as picks goes, he's like, that's the front office's job, that's the coach's job, and he's like, I got nothing to do with that. And the big thing with this, right, is that Maxx Crosby wants to play. He wants to play every single down. He wants to play every single game, and he wants his stats, and he wants to go out there and fight all the time. Now, would Maxx Crosby want a quarterback? Of course he would. Of course, Maxx Crosby is going to want a good quarterback because he wants the Raiders to win. But he's not going to go out there and say, yeah, I want to go ahead and tank for a quarterback. He's never going to say that. But then if you look at what's happening with Brock Bowers was officially put on season-ending IR just a couple of days ago. And that was the first real sign of like, oh, look, the Raiders are going to go ahead and tank. Yes, Brock Bowers has been dealing with a knee injury since week one, the game against the Patriots. He hurt his knee. He had a PCL strain, and then he went ahead and played for several games where he struggled. Then he got sat for a little bit, and there's all this kind of stuff that's been happening. And then Jeremy Chin was also put on season-ending IR with a back injury. So there's been essentially three big major moves that have happened. Pete Carroll was asked the other day how he felt about, the tank being on the line, the number one pick being on the line, basically. And he said he doesn't concern himself with such things and that we don't want him to be concerned with those kind of things. But there's a big, big piece to this because if they're putting players on IR that aren't really, really that injured, if we're benching Maxx Crosby and he's pissed off about it and leaving the building, then that means that we could be putting ourselves in a very, very dangerous position. Because if a team tanks on purpose and coaching staff or, staff in the building goes forward to the NFL and says, hey, guess what? This was an intentional tank. Well, what could happen is what happened to the Dolphins a couple years ago where they lost their number one, their first round draft pick, right? And so there's speculation right now that Pete Carroll might have a job next year if we're intentionally tanking, because if we tell Pete Carroll, hey, we want you to sit these guys, and then we're going to tank, and then they fire him, he could turn around and be like, hey, no, I was told to do this on purpose. And then thus putting us in the hot seat, right? So there's some speculation happening right now that could be that Pete Carroll actually gets another year with the Raiders. And I don't really like that. I'm going to tell you straight up. I don't like the idea about that. But Chewy said the Giants are doing the same thing that we are. And this is facts. This is really, really facts. The Giants, they have a quarterback. I don't think that they want Fernando Mendoza over Jackson Dart. But what they do want is to be able to trade back with that draft capital. And they also want to be able to attract a new head coach to come in the building because they did fire their coach. Actually, I'm wondering if I should Google this. I'm just going to pull up this image that I have of the injury report that was posted yesterday for week 17 against the Giants. And Maxx Crosby was on there with a knee injury. He did not participate in practice Wednesday and Thursday. And then Caleb Rogers, full practice. Raheem Mostert did not participate in practice. And we already put Brock Bowers and Jeremy Chin on the IR. But if you look at the Giants, we have defensive lineman DJ Davidson did not participate. Offensive lineman Evan Neal did not participate. Defensive back Tyler Nubin did not participate. Offensive lineman John Michael Schmitz did not participate. Offensive lineman Andrew Thomas, hamstring, did not participate. And then Raheem Nunez Roches, defensive lineman, was limited Wednesday, did not participate on Thursday. So they definitely have a ton of people on their injury report. And it's really, really starting to look like this is legitimately going to be the Tank Bowl, you guys. Definitely the tank bill. Dom says, I've been saying trade Max. He's not above the shield. And that is actual facts, right? That is facts that no player is above the shield. I don't believe any single player should be above the shield. Maxx Crosby is a guy that is, for one, a good culture setter. He's a good leader on the defense, and he's a damn good player, right? Now, if you could tell me if we traded away Maxx Crosby, we're guaranteed to be in the playoffs every year for several years in a row and be contending for a Super Bowl, I would say trade him, right? But the problem is that we traded Khalil Mack a couple years back with John Gruden, and we got a bunch of picks for him. And what ended up happening is the majority of those picks ended up being busts. And so it really, really actually backfired for the Raiders. So for us to be in a position where we're actually going to trade Maxx Crosby in order to try to win, it could be very, very dangerous for us. Raiders 1976 said, "Well, it's about time they are doing something right," and we're gonna hope that they actually do this right. I don't know how many of you guys watched the Broncos and the Chiefs play yesterday, but I put out a video before, already worried about what it looks like for us being able to tank, right? Because the main number one is we got to lose against the Giants, right? If we want the number one overall pick, we absolutely have to lose against the Giants. The Giants are in position where they're drafting number one overall right now, right? And if we beat the Giants, we fall down pretty significant, actually. Let me pull this up real quick. Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen. That way we can talk about it. And sorry to you guys on TikTok, I can't share a screen. It's only over here on YouTube. But, here we go. Ernie says, you have been tanking for the last 15 years. No, we have just sucked for the last 15 years. And then we do this thing where we win games at the last minute. We mess up our draft position. And then, it's rinse and repeat. We do the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. So Tankathon has New York Giants drafting first. We are drafting second. Browns are third. Jets are fourth. And Titans are fifth. And then Arizona is sixth, right? And the strength of schedule is the key position here because our strength of schedule is stronger than the Giants. And so that's why they're drafting in front of us. If we beat them, we fall behind the Cleveland Browns. And right now, we would be in front of the Jets because that has shifted. Now, the Jets had a weaker strength of schedule than us listed, and then it changed over this last week, but that can also change again before the end of the season. So right now, if we lose, we drop to pick number 3, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but our chances of getting the number 1 pick really, really drop significantly. The Giants' last game is against the Cowboys. I don't think that they're going to lose that game. But honestly, I think that we will do the smart thing right now, and we will go and do the right thing and lose against the Giants, right? But the game that really has worried me is that last game against the Kansas City Chiefs, because right now they are playing their third string quarterback, and Andy Reid is petty. He's the kind of petty that if the Raiders are sitting at the number 1 overall pick, he would tank that game. He would just absolutely bomb that game in order to mess up our draft position, right? Not just to be petty towards us, but also they don't want us getting a quarterback. They don't want us to be relevant in the division. But watching them play against the Broncos, yes, they lost, but they played a pretty good game with their third string quarterback. And if they play anything like that, the Raiders are not going to beat them. It is what it is, man. Young DB, what does that even mean? We trade Khalil Max relax? What are you talking about, man? Should trade for Lamar Jackson? That is not accurate. I don't think that would be a good idea, Jesse. We have too many holes in order to trade away draft capital to get a quarterback. And that's why I find it to be so important that we go ahead and lose the last 2 games of the season, get a number 1 overall pick, get ourselves a quarterback in the draft, and then boom, that's it, right? Patrick, what's up, man? Raiders bench Crosby. And he mad. Yeah, no, he definitely seems mad. He left the building. He doesn't want to tank. He already said he doesn't want to tank, right? But that's the kind of position that you want Maxx Crosby to be in. Hell, you want Maxx Crosby to be the kind of player that finds out that we're planning the tank and then he gets mad. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't want to sit. Raiders 1976 says one thing Raider fans won't do is jump ship. Exactly, man. You want, if there's any ladies in the chat, you want to find yourself a faithful man, you go and you get yourself a Raiders fan because we are loyal and we stick it out even if things are shitty. You know what I'm saying, man? Let me see real quick. Doc Nutty said, "We will win one of these last two. It's the Raiders' way." Dude, and there's a lot of fear in that, right? There is a lot of fear that we're going to go out there and we're going to win a meaningless game, you know? I think that it's entirely possible that the Raiders are honestly doing a true tank. I think that we're honestly doing a true tank because, okay, throughout the whole season, we've had issues, right? And some people have been speculating in the comments saying things like, there's a lot of evidence all the way through that this has been an intentional tank job from the get. I don't really believe that, right? I really, really don't believe that. I honestly believe that Pete Carroll thought he was going to go out there and win, and then it didn't work out, and then it didn't work out, and then it didn't work out, and then he got to a point where he's like, "Oh shit, I don't think this is going to work out," you know. And so then it's like, okay, at what point do we go ahead and make decisions, right? And I don't know if Pete Carroll's making the decision or if he's being told from the top down, like, "Hey, Brock Bowers is going to IR, Jeremy Chin's going to IR, and these guys have been dealing with legitimate injuries. Are they IR worthy injuries?" No, probably not, right? I believe that Brock Bowers and Jeremy Chin could both go out there and play. I believe Maxx Crosby could go out there and play. And the fact that we put those two on IR and we're benching Maxx Crosby because of injury, because he's been dealing with a knee injury, it makes too much sense for it to be that we're trying to go out there and lose. And the only big fear that I actually really have about this whole thing, or actually the biggest fear that I have, is that we're going to be too obvious in the fact that we are intentionally losing. I mean, I don't think it's too hard to lose a game for the Raiders because if you look at our season, I mean, the one thing that we have done consistently is absolutely lose. Absolutely lose. Like not even getting close to winning in most games. I haven't even felt like we're in a position where we could even possibly win most games. Baby doll, what do you mean who cares at this point? What we care is that if we get that number 1 overall pick, we not only put ourselves in position that we could get a quarterback, but we also put ourselves in position, let's say they don't like the quarterbacks. You could trade back and you could really, really fill out this roster very, very well. Arvin, so what if it's intentional? The whole deal with it being intentional is that you can get in trouble for intentional thinking, you know? The Dolphins lost their first round pick a couple years back. You know, there is quite a few ways that this could come to bite us, you know? Scorpion, you said that last year? Yeah, and what did we do last year, Scorpion? We went out there and we won at the end of the season. Donnie with the follow salute. We went out there and we won some meaningless games at the end of the season, and we put ourselves in position where not only were we not in position to draft a quarterback, I guess we could have got Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart was not worth a number 6 overall pick. And some people are saying that Genty wasn't either. Genty had a really good game against the Texans, that's for sure. Bro, Raiders no strangers to be in trouble with the NFL. And that's exactly it, right? Once Al Davis decided he was going to go to war with the NFL, okay, killing two Ross, the Dolphins lost their pick for tampering. Yeah, no, they did. But yeah, once Al Davis went to war with the NFL, it really put us in a bad position all the way around, right? And we were already a franchise that was struggling, like we had kind of lost our luster, you know what I'm saying? And we had a couple of good years in there, but then, I mean, really for Al Davis to do that, man, it really put us on bad terms, right? And then we had the whole Gruden thing, and the last thing we need is more trouble. No, this is Patrick. Genty had 188 yards against the top 5 defense. And I think that Genty is absolutely going to be an amazing player moving forward. And we need to get Genty a couple of key pieces. One of the things that we need to absolutely do is we need to get a quarterback. Geno Smith has shown flashes of being able to be a legitimate quarterback, but he is not consistent. He has not been able to actually put it together for us, right? And I don't think that he's going to all of a sudden turn things around and be a guy that can legitimately turn it around. I think Geno Smith is done with this franchise. So we need a quarterback. The next thing we need is we need to properly put our offensive line in a position to succeed. What that looks like for me is I would love to spend our second round pick on an offensive tackle. An interior lineman would be fine as well, but I'm thinking that DJ Glaze getting replaced puts us in a pretty good position, right? Because Caleb Rogers, in his limited snaps, has played really good as right guard. If we put Jackson Powers Johnson back at center where he played well, he's going to complement Caleb Rogers, and Caleb Rogers will play better. Who also played really good next to Jackson Powers Johnson was Dylan Parham, right? But if we're in a position where we have Colton Miller at left tackle, and then we have Jackson Powers Johnson at center, and then we get a new right tackle in the second round that's better than DJ Glaze, then all of a sudden Caleb Rogers is probably going to win the starting role. And then you have DJ Glaze and Dylan Parham and Charles Grant battling to get in on that interior offensive line. And I think that out of that, we end up with a decent line. Joshua Dice, Raiders need more than one draft pick to fix his team. Hopefully, you beat the Chiefs in Vegas this week. No, absolutely. But that's the thing, right? Is we do need more than one pick. We do. But how do you build this thing, right? How do you build this thing? It's going to be slow. It's going to be slow. But we are not super, super far. Half our team are free agents. And some people are thinking, oh, no, that's bad because we're going to lose more than like right about half our team. It's a little bit less than half of our team are free agents. The thing is that you re-sign those players that you're convinced are good player moving forward, and then you let the rest of them walk. We are a bad team right now. We get to change out a big chunk of our roster. And so my hopes is that Darian Porter Jr. drafted in the third round becomes good enough to be a starter, right? And I think he can. Charles Grant drafted third round starter. Caleb Rogers, my bad. Charles Grant also drafted in the third round last year. We need to get something out of him. And then, okay, Jack Besh, I think that if we actually target him, when we target him, he plays very well. And it's not that he can't get open because he's open. Geno Smith is just not hitting him properly, right? So, okay, you get your first, second, and 3 third-round picks from last year actually playing. Cool. Then this year, first round, you get a quarterback. Second round, you get an offensive lineman. Third round, I would like to see us get a defensive tackle. If we don't get an offensive lineman and we do that in free agency, well, then we better get a defensive lineman in the second round. But you use a third round pick on that, right? Remember, Maxx Crosby was a fourth round pick. You can get good defensive help in the third round. And if we get a couple of starters out of that and then use our cap space and actually utilize free agency to fill some of these holes, okay, it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to be headed in the right direction, right? And then you look at the next year after that, Troy with the gift, salute, thank you. Then you look at the next year after that, and then we're in a position where, oh, okay, we can draft a wide receiver in the first round or a linebacker, you know what I'm saying? Like, or a defensive tackle. And then boom, 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 as the years go through, you get yourself in a position where Fernando Mendoza's third year, all of a sudden, we have a team around him, right? If you look at what happened with Caleb Williams, he came in with an awful offensive line. And then, they went ahead and they said, we're going to get our quarterback because we're drafting high enough to get a quarterback. Then the following year, they spent big on offensive line and they went out and they got Ben Johnson as a head coach. All of a sudden, they're a playoff team, right? The Raiders can definitely replicate this kind of success. The Jaguars are having this kind of success. If you look at teams, the big one is that you have to have a quarterback. Like, if we had gotten our way this last year, if Tom Brady had gotten his way last year, he went out there and went on a skiing trip with Matthew Stafford, right? He was trying to get Matthew Stafford to come over to the Raiders. Matthew Stafford ultimately went back to the Rams. Then Tom Brady talked Ben Johnson into coming and having an interview with the Raiders. He had already reached out to a bunch of teams and said, don't even bother interview me, right? But then Tom Brady talked him into one. He came over here, and you know why he didn't take the job? For one, he already pretty much knew where he wanted to go, and that was the Bears, right? But a big part of that is they had a quarterback in place already. They were able to put these pieces together. I mean, and we have to get a quarterback. David King, what's good? He said if they are benching these players for the rest of the year, then they should play Aiden O'Connell. I disagree with that because, David, I think Aiden O'Connell is the quarterback on our roster that gives us the best chance to win. I would love to see Kenny Pickett go out there and play because he's horrible. He's even worse than Geno. See, David King, I would love to see the Raiders pick up the Jesus wide receiver from Cal. I think he's rated third in the country as far as yards. I haven't watched any tape on him. I'm going to have to go and check that out, man. Rebel Raiders said number one priority is O-line, move Chin to MLB, Richardson to SS, Stokes to FS. So Stokes played really good at corner, man, and I would hate to see us move Stokes from that position because he's absolutely been our best corner, you know. Yeah, Rock. I thought Thornton would be a good wide receiver. Mendoza might have chemistry with him. Another thing that I'd like to see, man, is I really like the Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana, the wide receiver over there that Mendoza has, because he's not his wide receiver one. That's Elijah Surratt. But Omar Cooper Jr., the way that he runs routes, the way that he, once he catches the ball, his shiftiness, just I think that he's an underrated wide receiver. Every time I do a mock draft, he's available in the third round, man, and it's crazy. Let me see. Hummer is in the building. Salute. One of the moderators. What's good, man? Let's see. Ship happens. Yeah, I'm just talking, man. What do you think's gonna happen over here, bro? There's not a game today or anything. I swear, bro. It's always somebody on TikTok. It's crazy. You guys are spoiled with all the people that show the games. The people that get their channel taken down. Applebot said, in this year's draft, need to draft defensive tackle, QB 2027 draft or better class. It is a better class. It is. But the thing is that the likelihood of being in position to draft a quarterback next year you can't guarantee that you're going to be at the top of the draft. In fact, you don't want to be at the top of the draft multiple years in a row. You don't. So really, you get a quarterback when you can get a quarterback. And I honestly believe Fernando Mendoza is somebody that could get it done. Dante Moore is a guy that I'm starting to believe more in. However, he doesn't have that many starts as a starting quarterback, and he's only 20. And so those things kind of worry me about him. Now, he has a whole lot to grow, so I do like that. But honestly, I like Fernando Mendoza better. Let's see. Hummer, I just popped on. No Max. Nope. Maxx Crosby has been informed that he will not be playing for the rest of the season. And he is not happy. I guess he left the building and everything. which, I mean, okay, if you're Max and you go in and you're thinking you're going to get to play, and then you get told, yeah, dude, you're not going to play, and you're pissed off about it, it's like, oh, fuck it, man. It's the day after Christmas. I'm going to go spend some time with my kid. That's what I'd be thinking. Like, okay, you're going to sit me? Sure. I'm going to go spend some time with my family. You know what I'm saying? David King says, I honestly think that the Raiders are going to go get Derek Carr, and then next year Tom Brady goes after Manning or CJ Carr. I know that Tom Brady likes CJ Carr, and there's a lot of people that like Arch Manning. I could see a world where Derek Carr ends up back on the Raiders. I know that Tom Brady he's not really a fan of Carr. There was that whole situation where Brady and Gronk were going to come over here, and then Gruden shot it down. And Tom Brady was like, "You're going to choose that dude over me?" Like there was a whole thing about that. So, would I rather have Derek Carr than Geno Smith any day of the week? Would I rather have Derek Carr than Aiden O'Connell or Jared Stidham or Desmond Ritter or Garner Minshew or Jimmy Garoppolo? Yes, I would rather have Derek Carr than any of them. Yeah, I know Derek Carr is, if he came back in, we'd have to like trade for him from the Saints and then pick up the rest of his contract, which would still be pretty comparable to what we did with Geno Smith, and we'd get a better result. Man, ship happens is on some negativity, bro. It's the day after Christmas, bro, and you really negative, bro. That's crazy. Ebenezer Scrooge over here. David King said the Raiders are already at the bottom 2 years in a row. A little late on that one. Oh, you talking about like just not wanting to be drafting at the top for multiple years? Rebel Raider with the follow salute. And that's part of the thing, right? Is that like we've already had we had the number 7 overall pick, then we had number 13, and then we had 6, and now we're maybe going to have number 1. It's like, at what point do we get out of there? What point do we get out of there? Yeah, OP Crosby shut down, Brock Bowers shut down, Jeremy Chin shut down. Let's see. Mr. Bill, nothing to be positive about the Raiders since 2003. That's not exactly true, man. We had a 12-win season, you know. It was a heartbreaker of a season, but it is what it is. And what's the commonality since then? We've drafted um 2 quarterbacks since then on days 1 and 2. And those were Jamarcus Russell, which everybody knows what happens with Jawaris Russell. He got lazy, he got big, he didn't watch tape. That was a huge, huge bust, right? And then 2014, we draft Derek Carr in the second round. Well, that ended up being our franchise leading passer. So we're due for a new quarterback. In fact, what we should have been doing was drafting a replacement quarterback for Carr. If we were looking at like, hey, you know what, we're probably not going to stick with Derek Carr, we should have been looking for a realistic replacement. Mr. Bill with the follow salute. Shit happens. They haven't been good since Bo Jackson. That's not facts, man. 2001, 2002, 2016, we had some pretty good years there. But besides that, the rest of the time, the Raiders have sucked. And that's even more argument to say that, like, look, man, we need to just go ahead and finally get a quarterback and stop the bullshit. Stop the bullshit. If you're going to draft that high, actually get a quarterback. Oh, looks like we got something about Pete Carroll to address decision to sit Max. Okay, so Pete Carroll is scheduled to speak to the media after Friday's practice at the club's headquarters in Henderson. Carroll is expected to address the decision to sit star defensive end Maxx Crosby. We hope you appreciate our content, blah, blah, blah. So, and that's all it is. It's just like, oh, yeah, he's going to address this, which, we already know that. Let me see. Doesn't look like Las Vegas Review Journal is saying why not play Cam Miller for the final two games, and I could appreciate that, right? I would appreciate them to go out there and play Cam Miller, kind of see who they have in that guy, see like, hey, can he be a viable backup moving forward? Is he going to pull Brock Purdy and be a starter? Um, and Josh, you think PC will be back next year? Pete Carroll. The only way that I see Pete Carroll being back next year is if he's in on the tank and they honestly believe that Pete Carroll would snitch on them for intentionally tanking. But here it is. Miguel Gonzalez, thank you for sharing the live. I appreciate that. Y2KG21 with the share. Salute. Thank you. Okay. You know what, man? Shit happens. You've been really negative, bro, but for you to start saying Oakland Faders fans, you can get blocked and get the hell out of here. That's some bullshit. Browns and Raiders are both hard to watch. Go Browns. It's been rough for way too long. Way too long. Absolutely, man. Hummer said if Pete is tanking, his next job is in Hollywood as an actor. And David and I were talking about that the other day, where like that's the biggest piece that I don't believe in like an intentional tank with Pete Carroll is that like I don't believe that he's that good of an actor. So that makes me believe Jeremy with the follow salute. The thing is, man, is that like I don't really think that it's been all the way through. I don't think that there was an intentional tank from the get, but I could see a world where Pete Carroll is being asked to put Brock Bowers on IR, Jeremy Chin on IR, Josh with the heart me salute, thank you. Telling Maxx Crosby that he's going to be sat. I could see them being like, look, Pete, we want that number one overall pick. And so what we need you to do is get our best players, make sure that they stay healthy. So you take anybody that's a good player that has an injury that you want to bring back next year, and you sit them down. Okay, they're probably going to go ahead and play Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty wants to get his 1,000 yards rushing as a rookie, and I hope he gets it. And I hope he gets that without winning. Let's see, what else do we want to look at? Geno Smith is probably going to play. I don't see us really sitting anybody else. Colton Miller was scheduled to try to come off of IR. I don't think that they're going to bring him back. I believe that what they should do is bench Stone Forsythe and put in Charles Grant or DJ Glaze. Bench one of our tackles, put in rookie Charles Grant. Let's see what we have in him. You know what I'm saying? Don't have the tolerance for the bullshit today. Yeah, see, T said Crosby is going to be a Hawk next year. Yeah, so you let Crosby, look, Crosby got his Pro Bowl, got in for a fifth time to the Pro Bowl. He's got a knee injury. That's a legitimate injury that he's been dealing with. Yes, could he play? Sure. Should he play? No. Crosby got 10 sacks. He's had a good year. I know Crosby would love to go ahead and get some more play time. He'd love to get some more stats. Sure. And he loves to be there for the team and to lead the team. But is it smart to play him? No, it's not. Is it smart to play Bowers? No, it's not. Even if we were trying to win these games, right? Even if we go out there and we're like, we really want to win these meaningless games. I mean, come on, man. Why are you going to put your players in position that are already injured to go out there and get a significant injury? Imagine Brock Bowers or Maxx Crosby both dealing with a knee injury. They tear their ACL or PCL or both, right? They're not going to be ready week one. Look at Malcolm Kuntz, man. He tore at the beginning of the season last year. He tore his ACL, and then he went into this season slow. And now they're just reporting that Malcolm Kuntz is finally starting to get up to pace. He's starting to finally look like he's getting his rhythm back, and it's the end of the year. So it's like you can't really depend on somebody bouncing back quick from a knee injury like that. It's going to slow him down. Hummer, if benching Max, bench Bowers also. Oh, Hummer, you missed it, man. Brock Bowers has been put on season-ending IR. Yeah, Brock Bowers is out for season. Maxx Crosby's out for season. Jeremy Chin's out for season. David said, I believe there was an intentional tank. If not, then explain what happened last Sunday. We have not seen a game all year like that. I would argue that the Patriots game week 1 was a game like that. So Patriots game and Texans game, both those games, it's like this is a real NFL team. But besides that, the Bears game was okay, but those are the only 2 games all year that I've been like, this is a legitimate NFL team. Because the rest of the games, we've played so friggin' bad that it's like, I don't even think that we could beat most college teams. You know what I'm saying? I am the bounty hunter with the. What was that, man? I missed it. Hey, salute to you for the heart me. Let me see. Danny Krinkle, yes, they've been tanking for the past 10 years. And that's not really true, right? We've just sucked. And if you look at 10 years ago, that's 2015, right? 2016, we had an amazing year. And then we've had a lot of up and downs and hit and miss since then, but not tanking. I mean, when was the last time that the Raiders went into the last 2 games on their schedule with a legitimate chance at getting the number 1 pick? I'll tell you when. Last year. Yeah, and we went and won some stupid, meaningless games at the end of the year last year. And everybody was like, no, like we shouldn't tank anyway. And okay, last year there was Cam Ward and Jackson Dart. Those were the only quarterbacks that went in the first round. We weren't gonna get Cam Ward. But like, damn, bro. So this year, Fernando Mendoza, I think he's better than Cam Ward. I honestly do. I think that Dante Moore is better than Cam Ward. I never really liked Cam Ward, honestly. The dude was not it for me. Oh, said, give me Dante. Dante Moore is a good quarterback. I feel like his play style is pretty comparable to Fernando Mendoza, except for the fact that he has less starts. I also don't feel like in the stuff that I've watched, with the follow salute. With the stuff that I've watched, man, I don't really feel like Dante Moore is as good of a leader as Fernando Mendoza. I like the way that Fernando Mendoza talks. I like the way that he really supports it. It's like that he's not just the man. It's like my team and the people around me, and he gives credit where credit's due, right? He's very humble. And I like those kinds of things about him. Dante Moore doesn't seem like a bad kid, though. He really doesn't. Yeah, Hummer, wow. I missed everything. Yeah, Tankathon is on. It's getting serious, man. David King said if Geno Smith ends up playing the rest of the season, I don't think he'll be back. If they bench him as well, I would expect him to be back. And I don't think that they're going to bench Geno. I really don't see that happening, man. David King says, as I said, I do not think the Raiders can afford another 3 to 4 year rebuild that may or may not go anywhere. Attendance is already horrible right now. Yeah, not only is the attendance horrible, but we also, I mean, look, we have a lot of fans that came, to the Raiders about 10 years ago when we had Derek Carr, right? A lot of people became fans during that time. And then we have a move to Las Vegas. And so then, people that are in the Las Vegas area are like, should we root for the Raiders? And then they look at the Raiders and it's like, they suck. And we're going to get to a spot where if we don't get ourselves a quarterback and actually start putting something together pretty soon, the Raiders are going to lose a significant portion of the newer fan base. And I know that Mark Davis doesn't want that. I know he don't want that, man. What? I don't want the number one draft pick anyways. I'd rather have 199 or 299 overall pick. What are you talking about, Bounty Hunter? Eric, Raiders versus Giants. Who do you think wins? At least they benched Bowers. They benched Bowers, they benched Maxx Crosby, and they benched Jeremy Chin. I honestly think it's going to be a good game to watch. And I really, really, really hope that the Raiders do the right thing and they lose the damn game. We need a number one overall pick way more than the Giants. If it weren't for the Giants' injuries, they would have had a much better season. Pete, it's unfortunate to see that you've been a Raider fan since 1976, and you feel like it's time to move on, especially from the NFL. I'm not here to talk you into saying, but I know where I'm going to be. Yo, man, 717, win or lose, I just want Genty to drop another 30 fantasy points. I would love to see Genty go out there and ball out, man. LV Raider, what's good? Please stop bringing up past as an excuse to do something in the future. I had a bad girlfriend in the 10th grade. Should have never got another girlfriend again. Again, greater logic. So, and I get that, right? What I'm saying is that I don't believe that Mark Davis is going to be willing to move on from Maxx Crosby because of what happened with Khalil Mack. And I think that this is what you're referring to. I'm not sure. But, I mean, Mark Davis and Maxx Crosby is very, very close. Both sides want to be a Raider for life. Mark wants Crosby to be here for life. Crosby wants to be a Raider for life, but he wants this thing to turn around. And the only way that this thing turns around is if we actually get a quarterback. If we get the number one overall pick, we can get a quarterback, and I don't know that Pete Carroll will be back for another year. I don't know that I really trust him with a rookie quarterback. But I think that we can put ourselves in position to eventually get somebody like a Clint Kubiak. You know what I'm saying? Hey, yo, Chris, yeah, we need a new coach for Mendoza. But let's say we get Mendoza and we run it back with Pete. It could be like what happened with the Bears, right? The Bears, what was their coach's name? He's the Cowboys coach now. I want to say Schottenheimer. Anyway, the Bears coach, they didn't like him. He sucked. And they ran it back with him another year because Ben Johnson said that he wasn't ready to become a head coach just yet. He wanted to be an OC another year with the Lions. And so they were patient. And then after another year of sucking, they went out there and they got Ben Johnson. And now look at them, right? So if let's say Clint Kubiak's like, look, man, like I don't want to go to head coach just yet. I want to run it back with the Seahawks, be an offensive coordinator another year, and then I'll be looking at head coaching jobs. I'd be all about, run it back with Pete Carroll. We're going to be paying the dude anyway. Run it back with Pete Carroll. Wait for Clint Kubiak. Get you your guy the following year. I could be just fine with that. David King says, I think the Raiders should try to get the number one pick and then trade down. There's just as many good quarterbacks coming out in the second round. Mendoza is good, but he's not all that. He's not all that, but he's better than any of the quarterbacks that are going in the second round, third round. He's better than Carson Beck. He's better than Ty Simpson. Honestly, he's better than Dante Moore. And if we're already going to be in position to get the best quarterback in this draft, might as well just get the guy. Catherine with the follow, salute. I mean, might as well get the guy if you're in position to get the guy, because if we're not in position to get the guy, okay, I get it. Don't trade up for him. Don't trade up for him. If we go out here and we beat the Giants, I absolutely do not want to see a world where the Raiders are dumb enough to trade up for Fernando Mendoza after winning stupid games. The Ocha, the follow, salute. David, I must have missed this press conference. David King said, the one thing that tells me that Derek Carr is coming back is that Geno Smith went on a press conference and said, if he is coming back, then there is no need for me here anymore. If Derek Carr is coming back, when was that asked? Give me a date on that one, David. I want to go watch it. LV Raider said, I never seen a fan base so used to losing that they're afraid to draft a quarterback. It makes no sense. Oh, so what you're talking about is the whole thing with Jamarcus Russell. And people are so afraid to draft a quarterback in the first round because of what happened with that people always say, no, let's get an offensive lineman, and no, let's not get a quarterback, and no, let's only bring in a veteran, right? And that's the Raider thing to do now, because Rich Gannon was a veteran quarterback. Like, we had all these journeyman quarterbacks in the times that we were actually making playoff runs. And so, yeah, there's a large portion of the fan base that really believes that, like, if we get a veteran quarterback, we're going to be better off than getting a rookie. Yomero said, just told my kid, wear that jersey as much as you can. Max will be gone before the draft. Man, don't tell your kid that. If he has a Maxx Crosby jersey and he loves Maxx Crosby, bro, like, don't crush him like that, man. Plus, I don't think Max going anywhere, bro. I don't. I do not. Ross said Mendoza has that aura about him. He really, really does. He really, really does, man. And I'm 5 weeks ago, David. Okay. I believe Mendoza is the guy to get. I honestly do. Yeah, Mr. Bill, trade Crosby for 2 number ones and 2 number twos. Trade the number one picks and 2 number twos. What, to get a quarterback? I don't like that at all. To fill out the roster, maybe. But then what are you doing with those picks? You're hoping that you're going to be able to draft somebody like a Maxx Crosby. You know what I'm saying? All right. So look, you guys, I've been on for an hour, man. I'm gonna go spend some time with my family, bro. I got a couple of days for Christmas, man, and I really, really just want to spend some time with them. We've been bouncing around to the in-laws, to my parents, going all over the place. We have an opportunity to just really spend some time together, and I'm all about that. So, you guys, this is very interesting news. Just to recap it, Maxx Crosby has been informed that he's going to sit for the rest of the season. Brock Bowers has been put on season-ending IR. Jeremy Chin has also been put on season-ending IR. If there is more news that hits about any of this stuff, I will definitely either be going live again or I'll put out another video. So you guys, like always, I love you, nation, and I will catch you on the next one.